that time of week once more for Muji and Dan to give you the comic store. It's time to open up those bags and boards, fans. Welcome to Get Your Pulls.
Welcome to Get Your Pulls, number 84. We're back after a week's hiatus. It's the OG crew.
It's Dan and Mooj, the
Yes.
1-2 punch of comic knowledge and entertainment. And I was a 1-2 punch of shitting and puking myself last week, which is why we did not have a Get Your Pulls. So now we come back with a double edition. Unfortunately, poor Todd, he was ready to roll last week and couldn't make it happen because of my serious dysentery bout. And
you didn't even watch True Detective that night. That's pretty sick.
Oh, I tell you, I was sicker in like a 24-hour span at least than I've ever been as an adult that I can recall. It was really horrible, and my entire family had it, and we just kept passing it back and forth to one another, and I barely read any comics even. It was so bad.
That's tough, but luckily you recovered. We're here, we got some stuff to talk about. There's some little bit of news, and then we got a lot of books, so we'll try to run through some of it. Some things I found interesting this week, really nothing that big. Most of it's just like speculation internet articles I just found interesting. I don't know if you saw the article that some guy reported that he had inside information that Marvel was completely phasing out their print, which of course, sent people up in arms, like immediately going crazy on, some even comic book store owners popping up being like, bullshit, you're not phasing out your print, like what are you talking about? And then I went and read the guy's article, as a bunch of people did, and he seemed to be full of shit. It was from like a reputable site. Apparently they predicted things in the past, but they had a bunch of like bogus stats about how more comic book stores are closing than ever, when in fact this year was the first time forever comic book stores actually increased by 3%. There was actually more open than closed last year. And for the second year in a row, a good percentage more comics, print-wise and digital-wise, got sold. Print went up 2 years ago. It went up almost 20%, and then last year it went up another 10%. So I seriously doubt they're going to, anytime soon, shut down a bunch of free money. Not to mention that it's still digital, something estimated between 10 to 20% of the market, so you're not going to give up 80% of your books. But if you read the article, it was pretty quick to see that the guy had a bunch of sources that were just incorrect, and used a bunch of it was just shitty journalism. He obviously had the idea of I bet this is going to happen, and twisted kind of any sort of factor happening to fit, that story. Such as Barnes & Noble, he put a big thing about how Barnes & Noble stopped selling comics because they can't move any, and it was they stopped doing newsstand comics, almost everybody did, but they still sell tons of graphic novels, and people, you can just go look up real quick that Barnes & Noble makes a bunch of money off selling graphic novels, so, which is print, BT dub, so.
Yeah, that's stupid. I didn't really put any credence into that when I saw it, and I think that Marvel probably wouldn't be wise to eliminate that market. I don't think that's the foundation of comic books. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, despite all of the people who have been predicting the end of print for the last decade.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, it's the same thing as I think no matter what, you're going to be able to get your print books. It's never going to get to a point to where, even if digital, it's obviously going to keep getting bigger. There's lots of kids who are growing up with iPads now who don't get as many books and stuff. So, I think it's going to keep, garnering, more of the marketplace. I don't know how long. I think it's probably still going to be a real long time before it's even half and half. And then how far past that it gets, we won't know. But, most people listen to digital music, but you can still get vinyl or a CD of anything you want. And, you could have said 10 years ago, hey, CDs and anything not digital music is dead. And you'd be like, yeah, it pretty much is. But they're still selling it 10 years later. They're still making enough money off of it. They're just not making the crazy amount. I think that's just it. It's maybe eventually comics they'll just have to be smarter with their price points and with, how many of these things are going to print. Like, that's a big deal. It's like how many books are actually going to print. You can't print way more than you need if you're not selling that many. But I mean, I was looking at, like, everybody said, that like actual CDs were dead, and then I was looking a couple weeks ago, and you're looking, there's still people that they're really popular acts that are selling, 100-something thousand the first week they're out.
Yeah,
If you can't make money off selling 100,000 CDs, then you're an asshole. Like, they're obviously still making money off of it. So
yeah, clearly they are, and I think I'm not a hater of digital by any means. I definitely has its place.
no, I joke around about it. It's just not preferable to me.
Right. No, it definitely has its place in the market, and it's definitely convenient, and you don't, it doesn't go bad, and you don't have to keep storage in your house, and you don't have to take care of it, and, you don't have to be very delicate with it and store it in proper bags and boards over time. Certainly it has its advantages, but you will never in any medium be able to replace the ability to physically own an item, whether it be a CD or a comic book.
I mean, collectability, I think, is like a big part of it, but then also, I mean, they're just still the aesthetic. There still are a lot of people who just find it more pleasurable to hold a book in their hand than a Nook. So it's just, I mean, I think there's always going to be people like that. And plus, a lot of people, man, I have a problem with, like, people like to draw a direct line with books and music. Like, they're going to go through the exact same thing. You can see it. It's no matter what. And there's a pretty big difference in the experience of music and whatever. Like, what really happened, I think, with CDs is they made CDs to where you didn't need to buy them anymore. I mean, back when we were kids, we were kids in the 80s. I mean, you're probably like, first started buying CDs in the early 90s, as far back as I can remember buying those things. But it used to be when you bought a CD, you were pumped up because it had a bunch of, you got like a book with it, had a bunch of different pictures of the bands, had like all the like lyrics to all the songs. Like, you got like something almost like buying a DVD with extras. And they got really cheap about it. Then at a certain point, you got one thin, piece with a picture of them on the front and maybe the names of the songs on the back, and that's all you got. I mean, and it went that way from when vinyl, which of course, has come back in a big way in the past couple years. It was the same thing with that. You would get booklets inside the vinyls that had all this stuff in it, and they eventually phased it out to where all you really got for the money was the songs. So there really is no difference listening to it on a CD or downloading it, because you're not getting anything else for the money. Now, vinyl, on the other hand, another big thing, a lot of that old music just sounds better when you play it on vinyl. Like, you get a better sound, so I think that's why it's coming back. But, I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But I don't think it's like a one-to-one comparison. I think there's a whole lot of different things between print for books and comics than there is for, like, music.
I don't think so. Like, comics didn't have a television channel solely dedicated to the music that was out at the time and pumping whatever album was coming out every week until that channel stopped doing that, which was also right about the time that music, digital format type stuff became available. And so it was just, I think, a perfect storm of things that happened that caused the music industry to hit that rough patch.
Yeah, exactly. And there's
different than comics.
There's just a bunch of differences. I mean, we don't have time to talk about them all, but I mean, just even the way you experience them. Like, if you buy once you buy like a CD, for like most people, it's mostly for the car. So unless it's like a band you really like and you want to sit around and listen to it and listen to every song, if you're like me, you buy a CD, you throw the CD thing that no longer has anything worth anything into the closet, stick the CD in a book with a billion other CDs, and then you're just in the car listening to it. Like, there's no personal connection. There is to the music, but to the CD itself, there's like no personal connection. Or in comics, there is a big personal connection because it's totally different. But anywho, one other piece of news though that does seem to maybe have something behind it is the possibility of Marvel pulling out of comiXology, which, if you want to look at another big thing Marvel did that really fucked them over and helped them go bankrupt. I mean, now in movies they're never going to go bankrupt, so you really feel like they could really make a lot of mistakes in comics and never feel it. But one of the big things that got them screwed over, that was a big mess, was when they tried to do their own distribution back in the late 90s. When they bought their own distribution center and comics, and basically back then Diamond distributed everything but Marvel, and then Marvel had their own. Marvel's distribution center sucked, and they eventually just went back with Diamond. Well, they're saying at there's some big tech conference that is happening, I think this weekend, and Marvel has a big announcement. A lot of people think it's going to be that there's going to start being like a Marvel in-house subscription service where you can get discounts and stuff, and a lot of people think that that's their first step in just completely controlling, their own comics and cutting comicsology out of the loop. Which I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I guess as a business, it's like, whatever, but it is another one of those things where the more people, you have those fears about big companies, almost like how I did with wrestling, which has proven true, at least did for like a really long time, where once they don't really have anybody at all to answer to, they can, you hope the quality doesn't go down once, they're like, well, who cares? Like, we have complete control over everything. That's always a possible shitty thing that can happen.
Well, yeah, it's certainly a concern. And with comicsology, you have the accessibility. So you have
it's like shopping
average Joe Schmo.
In a comic shop.
Right. Joe Schmo can go on comicsology on his iPhone, and he can say, oh, I didn't know there was this image, and oh, I didn't know there was this other Marvel stuff and DC, and you got it all right there in front of you. Whereas if, it's accessibility, if Marvel's exclusive, then you kind of take that out of the platform.
Yeah, you almost feel like they're doing the thing like, say, like the WWE did in the late 90s, where they're like, we're not wrestling, like, we're entertainment, like, don't group us in with all that other wrestling. If Marvel does their own thing, like, well, this is Marvel, like, we're not just a regular comic place. This is Marvel. This is Marvel Entertainment. Like, we're not the same thing as blah blah blah. But so we'll see. I get more scared with them than with anybody that they're going to do something to hurt my comics buying experience. Because for me, that's a thing. I mean, I hate to say it because who knows how it would eventually be. But if, say, one company did it, say Marvel, say we're going completely digital, I would just buy a bunch more DC and Image books. I mean, for the most part, if I was really interested. Because I never think they'll stop printing graphic novels. I just don't see that happening, even if they went digital and cut out the floppies. It would severely cut me down. It'd be like, things I really wanted to read, it would give you the time to get them reviewed. Like, it would actually come out cheaper if say, Marvel did this and it was their first step to go completely control their own thing through digital. Then you have a year, 6 months after the stories have come out to read to see if you actually like it, and then I would just pick and choose and read whatever trades that look like they were awesome, which would severely cut down the amount of stuff that I bought from them because.
Yeah, part of the fun's just, going and picking up something off the week. Yeah, you can take an issue and just, you don't have any kind of commitment.
Yeah. Like
You're in it for $3. If it sucks, then oh well.
Yeah, if they cut out, I could see my comics budget just being replaced by a bunch of Image and DC books, and then that would just be less money. Like, I just don't, like I said, I just think it's one of those things that for now you can disregard. I just think they would lose so much money. Even doing their own thing on comicsology, like, that's sketchy. Like, I mean, I think there are a lot of people, especially too, man, a lot of new people that get into comics because they feel like it's okay because of Image books, because, they're like, you should read Saga, this isn't just regular comics. Like, you're allowed to read Saga and, like, read, literature. You can like be an English major and read Saga, and you don't have to be scared, and that people are gonna make fun of you. Those people are like going to shop for their comics digitally on like comicsology, and maybe they'll pick up a Marvel book because they see, has some of the same creators and stuff. Like, you're completely cutting out the window shopping.
They'll pick up a Marvel book and enjoy its whimsical fun, and then not tell anybody.
Yeah, or they'll pick up Hawkeye because that's not a superhero comic. Yeah, it is, dummy. It's just written differently. It's a superhero comic, motherfucker. He's an Avenger. But anyways, that's it. I rambled through most of our extra time.
See that Arrow this week?
Yeah, it was awesome. That was probably the best episode yet.
Great, man.
I mean, they do. I mean, part of it is like, it's not like Oscar-winning acting 100% of the time, but I do like. I mean, I've always liked these type of shows. I mean, I've always liked. Basically, I've grown out of like all of my like love of like teen drama. Other than if you throw a superhero in, I still like it. Cause you know me, I'm the guy who's like, yeah, I bought season 1 of Dawson's Creek on DVD, and I'm not embarrassed. And I own Laguna Beach on DVD. That's how bad I suck.
Arrow's a nice show for that demographic, even though, because it's
Yeah.
like aged up just a little.
It's aged up just a little, the way
know?
Smallville was towards the end.
Right.
And it's still kind of the same type of situations a lot, but it is. It's like, but I mean, it's a much higher caliber. I mean, you have to be honest. The first 2 seasons of it kicked the shit out of the first 2 seasons of Smallville.
Oh yeah.
And I loved it, but it was also, I mean, it grew with us because season 1 of Smallville came out when I was like 18. So I was at an age to where I much more appreciated like the angsty Clark and stuff. And now, like, I don't have time for that. That's why like a lot of teenage shows I can't get into because I mean, if you're like 15, man, like you don't understand. Like you have no problems yet. Like you just have been fooled. So angsty stuff now is just annoying. Where I'm like, man, if you're a teenager, I get it. But for me, I can't relate to that at all now. I've got my own, like, I'm going bald and getting fat and need to make something of my life because I'm 30 issues. Totally different issues. But yeah, Arrow, basically, the acting is above what normal CW shows are. So it's like better than like you hoped it was going to be.
The action is phenomenal.
And the
like
action, the action is fucking great. I mean, it was a great episode of a TV show. I mean, there was like fucking, you definitely felt the tension when they're walking around the Queen residence, and the mind jockeying where fucking Slade and Oliver are figuring out like what they need to do in the situation, and figuring out like who's there and what's going on. Like you felt it the whole time. It was really, really good.
And in this season, they've only brought us that one scene of him in full Deathstroke regalia, and he kills like 10 guys.
Yeah.
With one swing of his sword.
That's the build-up, man. I mean, it's a big build-up. I mean, it's almost like an old-school fucking wrestling build-up where you can't wait for fully decked-out Green Arrow and Deathstroke to fucking go at it. And when it happens, it's going to be great, and that's obviously like the big draw.
Yeah, check it out. That's just our recommendation. If you're not watching Arrow, you're missing out. First season is on Netflix, and you could go probably subscribe to Hulu and get caught up on season 2. So,
a couple other things. If you're a snooty comic book lover, which if so, you probably won't listen to this pod, but if you are or know some friends that are, Lena Dunham, who writes and is the star of Girls, is going to rewrite some Archie comics. Actual Archie, I think, as a matter of fact, like just in the regular Archie line. She's going to be picking up writing, so that's that's okay to show to your buds. That's okay, like, to show to your friends in English class, like, she's a respected writer from her TV stuff. So there you go. That's coming out, which is only good because like I said, I mean that's the type of thing where even if the smallest percentage of people, any way you can sell more comics is good, even if people are only picking up like the 2 or 3 books that have been deemed, by the fucking Village Voice okay to read. That's still more comics sold.
Do you worry if though, like, just let's play devil's advocate and look at the flip side of that. Do you worry if in the future, like, comics were to just boom in popularity more so than they are now or ever, where you think like it would just be 3/4 of celebrities or washed up celebrities trying to fucking write a comic to stay relevant?
I mean, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, but I think with comics, the cool thing is there's so many that, like, I don't really think they're taking anybody's job. You know what I'm saying? Because more often than not, it's not going to be something like this. I mean, I saw Alyssa Milano has written a comic that apparently sold really well. Who the fuck would have known?
I mean, apparently she's like really serious about that though. Like
apparently she likes comics. Bria Grant wrote a comic. I think her and her brother co-wrote a comic. So that happened.
There's been so many. Tyrese Gibson wrote a comic.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
I mean, Paul Scheer has the comic out that people think is good. He just did a mini. Seth Meyers wrote a comic. So I mean, there's lots. What's his name? Also from SNL, like now the number one. Luckily for this guy, Taron Gilliam, he was like number 6 on like the list of like the guys, and then the top 5 in the matter of a season and a half all quit. So he's like, I'm the lead. I'm the guy on Saturday Night Live. I'm in all the promos now. Like I'm the dude. He'll always be steak sauce guy to me, or one of the few whites on a Wild Out. But anyways, he's got a comic out. So I mean, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. Especially, I'm surprised that they almost don't ghostwrite. I'm surprised that like Steven Seagal doesn't have some guy write him an action comic and be like co-written by Steven Seagal and this guy that's a newspaper writer. Like I think I really do think, you probably have a good point. Like, that could become a thing where more people stay relevant, especially if they're going on these circuits. Like, if they just, people who are making a lot of money off cons put two and two together and go, why don't I have something to sell with my autograph?
Okay, also I have a comic. Here you go.
I have a comic. I wrote most of it. Like, Cullen Bunn, he co-wrote it with me. I mean, a little bit, but I wrote it. But yeah, that could happen. But that's pretty good news. Michael B. Jordan said something I thought was awesome this week. Somebody asked him about people's reaction to him playing the Human Torch, to which, of course, the person who wrote the article was like, racist reaction to him playing Human Torch, which was clickbait, which worked because I clicked on it, and then in the article, says nothing about that other than that guy making his own assumptions. He asked Michael B. Jordan about the reaction. He's like, yeah, I figured it was coming, and he made the great point. So there probably are some racist people, but him being a level-headed guy, he's like, a lot of people want continuity when it comes to comics, and obviously he's like, my character has never been a person of color. He's like, that throws the continuity off. He said, yeah, so I think it's more continuity than anything. He's like, people are used to it being this way and just want it that way. Completely brushing off, not saying, yeah, there's a bunch of racists out there, making the point that if you try to make, people are just like, oh, you're just racist if you can't see, somebody is something else. Thought it was awesome.
Classy guy.
Yeah, again, it was a very classy answer. So like I said, we've gone on record on Getchyapulls of, at least for I don't see the Human Torch, whatever color they make him, being a big deal. Because that's just his character. I don't think the color of that character means anything.
Yeah, other than the relationship to Sue, which you can explain in a sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
But I thought that was awesome. And the last thing I thought was interesting this week was, have you seen Zack Snyder? Him and Joel Silver had a little back and forth on Watchmen.
No.
Which I immediately thought was funny, because I liked Watchmen, and I wasn't reading comics at all when Watchmen came out. I was just like, this is another cool comic book movie. I really like comic book movies. And that was my first introduction to the Watchmen story at all. I thought the movie was awesome. So that's just my opinion on Watchmen. I know there's a lot of people that don't like it.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people say it just sucks and the acting sucks, and okay, that's a subjective thing. If you think that, fine. I don't agree, but whatever. But then there are people that are mad that it was too faithfully translated.
Yeah, you can't.
Now, are you not the same people that are gonna fucking raise immortal hell if it's not translated faithfully enough?
People think that, and then also the same people also will be mad at the end of the book. They changed the ending, and it was too faithful. It's like, you gotta pick one, man. You gotta pick one for the reason that you hate it. But I just think it's one of those books. I think in reality, there are some things that are so near and dear to people's hearts that people just aren't gonna like it. There's no way. And he made a good point in this article too. He said, like, at that time, comic book movies, it wasn't like, some of these other things coming out now. That was like at the height of like really like fanboy, like butt hurtness over any little thing in comics. He made the point, he's like, if Watchmen came out next year, he thinks that, it would probably get a much better reaction, which is probably true. But the big thing on the story, other than on personal opinions, is Joel Silver basically came out and said Terry Gilliam's Watchmen was going to be awesome and that he would have done it right, and Zack Snyder made a shitty movie. First of all, Joel Silver, the last person in the world that you're going to ask about the quality of a fucking superhero movie. The guy who killed off a perfectly good... Well, looking back on it, Batman Returns was not helping, but then came in and helped through production and stuff kill off Batman.
Oh, he was involved in the Schumacher movies? I don't know. I would say I don't know who Joel Silver is. So
he's just a big...
Enlighten our audience, Muji.
Yeah, Joel Silver is a big producer. He's produced a bunch of stuff, such as... I'll just give you some things. He did like the House of Wax remake. Or they made a big deal about that because he was like a big producer. He's just a producer. He's only directed a couple things. He's mostly a producer. And I think he's just really mad. He's worked, I don't know if he's like had hands on, but he's worked at a couple of different companies, specifically Warner Brothers. He worked there during those years. So, and that's why he was trying to get Terry Gilliam to do Watchmen, because he had the connection with Warner. So, if you read like what movies he thinks are good and aren't, he's a real asshole. And he's produced mostly shitty movies. He produced some good movies in the late 80s, but has produced almost nothing but shit since then. And he's a producer, so what the fuck? He doesn't have that much to do with it. But anyways, I was just taking this, I was like, let me read this Terry Gilliam thing. I'm going to give you a couple excerpts from this thing, and you tell me if people would have been like, great. Ending of the movie, I'll give you the opening. The Terry Gilliam script, the original one, he apparently rewrote it again in the 90s, but the one he had in 1988 that was written for him, they got really close to getting made in 88. It opens up the Watchmen in present day are trying to stop terrorists at the Statue of Liberty. Dr. Manhattan is late arriving and the Statue of Liberty gets blown up. And the Watchmen are just hanging out, like, oops. And that's what makes people be like, oh, the Watchmen suck, we need to get rid of them. So that's now your new reason, not, we're trying to cut down on superheroes. Dr. Manhattan becomes a heel and loses favor because he's fucking meditating and doesn't show up and the Statue of Liberty gets blown up.
Which totally shits on his entire character, that he's like omnipotent and can experience all realities of time.
He tried to use that. He really tried to suck the pain and drama, which is really what Watchmen's all about. Watchmen is a very bleak fucking look at like what it would be like if they're superheroes. That's kind of like one of the major points. Well, he figures out, like, oops, I mean, I'm present all the time. I can just stop things all the time. So he cures his wife of cancer so she doesn't die. And then the way the movie ends, he goes back in time and stops himself from becoming Dr. Manhattan. And then there's this big, like, time juggle in present day when all this happens. It causes fucking Ozymandias to go back to being a kid, but no longer with the idea of wanting to be a superhero, and it causes like a Silk Spectre, Rorschach, and Night Owl are in like 88 in their superhero outfits, and the cops show up and like wonder like what the fuck's going on because Watchmen was a successful like maxi comic series. Watchmen, they're now in real life where Watchmen was a comic, and there never were Watchmen, but in their mind they don't know because they just went through some time jump. And yeah, it fucking is really awful, the movie they're gonna make. How mad would people be if the end of Watchmen is Dr. Manhattan causes a big time riff where he goes back in time and never exists, and the rest of the Watchmen are trapped in present day thinking they're the Watchmen but finding out you guys aren't really superheroes, you came from a comic.
What in the flying dog dick does that have to do with Watchmen?
Well, that's the movie that Joel Silver is mad to get made. So
yikes.
I say fuck that guy. But anyways, that's it for the news. We got plenty of books. Trying to jam through them.
Rapid succession comic review. Essentially picked like one little piece of that I'm going to talk about on most of them. There's a couple that'll warrant more due to the importance of them.
I'll try to go quick. Trillium number 7.
Wait, I thought we were starting with DC.
Oh, well, I mean, this isn't the DC Vertigo uni.
Oh, that's right, it is. I'm sorry, I thought it was Image.
Trillium number 7. I love almost every Lemire thing I've read, but this is just, I just don't enjoy it. There's only one issue left. I'm kind of glad it's ending. That's all I gotta say about it. People are allowed, and a lot of people do like it, so, but people are allowed to have things that aren't as awesome sometimes. The Wake, number 6. Very happy with the beginning of the second storyline, where we're fucking really far into the future from the previous one. Yeah, it's 200 years later, and we now live in a world where these fucking sea creatures have basically taken over, and everybody, it says, is like living on the coast, like they're having to kind of live in unison with the sea creatures, I guess, to keep them from eating them and stuff. And it's good. It's a good first issue. You basically find out by the end of the issue that the scientists from the first, something's going on with the scientists from the original story, the one who had the flashbacks about, as a little girl, about talking to the sea creatures and stuff. Like, there's a new girl that's now the star in the story, and she gets a communication through a radio from the scientist who presumably should be dead because it was 200 years ago. So that's the new mystery, is what the fuck is going on. And I think we're probably going to figure out in the next few issues, like, why certain people, like, can, like, kind of communicate with the monsters and other people can't. But I'm really pumped up.
Yeah, very interesting, very, very new direction for that.
Yeah, it's like a totally different thing, which is great. I read a good interview with Snyder where he said this was the original idea, was like, we're going to write this, like, futuristic thing where now there's these sea creatures that have done all this stuff, and then they started thinking about the backstory and was originally going to do it just as flashbacks, you know, to try to fill the story in, but then by the time they got to the end, we're just like, which I'm glad they did the way they did, because it's awesome. It's like, let's just write the whole fucking past as one story and the future is another. I think it really works well. And over I got Green Arrow, The Outsider's War, book number 4. It's been really good, man. A book that Lemire is kicking the shit out of. It's Green Arrow, man. He's made him awesome, which is great. It sucks that, you know, people didn't like the Green Arrow comic at first, but since Lemire's taken over, it's been super enjoyable. I mean, it's been among the best superhero books that there are. And, I mean, you just get more in this. You get, you know, it's kind of, one thing that's weird is because the TV show and the book is so different, sometimes I have to think in my mind, like, what's going on with what stories, because both of them are flashback to the island, and both of them do different things. They're just like...
Not to mention they've introduced characters like Diggle and Shadow in his comic that have been on the show. So
and some of the characters in the show and the comics like have totally different like places, like they're not the exact same character. But remember last issue we got the great, you know, we had the great reveal that fucking Oliver Queen's dad is alive, is living on the island, and this issue it spins out of that, and then at the end of the issue, something fucking crazy happens. They leave you on a crazy cliffhanger for next week. It's nuts, but I won't spoil it.
Awesome.
But it's awesome. Then over to old Soups, Action Comics. It was really good again.
It's an awesome cover.
It is great. They were killing on that, man. As good as Greg Pak is writing this thing, you have to also give the huge props to Aaron Cooter on the art. Is telling the story brilliantly. Also doing the fantastic job. The only things I've started growing to like, even though at first I was like, this is probably just another way to like justify us charging you $4. I do like how on all the $4 DC comics they have this little cover. Don't know what it is, but I like it. I like the thicker cover on these books.
Oh, well, I mean, just when you're talking about collectability and keeping these things in one piece, that certainly goes a long way towards helping. It's almost like its own boarding mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely. But then, yeah, you get the continuation of this story. You remember the last one. Soups was underground with some beasts, with Alana Lang, and then it's just more of that. He's fighting with the beasts, also with the Ghost Soldier guy. Lana's around. It's really good. I really like the characters. They've really made Lana pretty awesome too. Like if you're looking, you know, she's really easy to like turn into kind of a throwaway character because she's from Clark's past and stuff. But they've made her pretty badass. They've really made her like a lot more Lois-like actually in this book than you know you might perceive her in like other iterations.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, where she's adventurous and you know can put Clark in his place because she's known him since you know he was a kid and everything. So.
More, yeah, they go with more like his old tomboy best friend than opposed to his like lost love as she's been portrayed in many other incarnations.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Detective 29, the end of Gothtopia, the end of the John Layman era in the book. Thought it wrapped up pretty good. I wasn't 100% crazy about the story in general. I mean, we've just seen so many times done, like Batman gets poisoned and now he's you know, seeing things aren't there, and he's got to work his way through his mind of not being poisoned and figure things out. But it was still good for a story that we've seen done a whole lot of times. It was still a good story. Got to see, there was actually some good moments between him and Catwoman throughout the book, and in the end, of course, as spoiler alert, Batman gets back to being Batman, because, you know, because Batman 30 is coming out next month. But
and that's what he does.
Yeah, you get some good stuff between the two of them at the end of the book, so that's good. And really pumped for Buccioletto.
Yeah, Francis Manapul and Brian Buccioletto, man, they
taking over. Pumped for that.
Such a great job on Flash, and I've only seen just a couple of the teaser images they've put out from their Batman stuff, but it just looks so magnificent, and they are the premier teams in comic art right now.
Yeah, it's pumped for that.
Yeah, moving along in the DCU in New 52, quickly with the Flash number 28, Possessed by Dead Man, a nice little one-off series, as all of these Brian Buccellato wrap-up issues have been. It's just a nice little one-off.
It feels like they didn't have anybody ready. Like, they finished their story, and then they needed to move Manapult over to start getting ahead on detective art, but they were just like, we need some more Flash stories. Buccellato is like, well, I can write a few more stories.
Yeah, and it's just been a different artist each time.
They've been good, but yeah, it does feel like they really didn't have a replacement lined up.
Patrick Zerker is the artist on this issue, and it's a cool little team up with the Flash and Deadman, and they go trying to solve a murder, and it does leave with kind of a crazy cliffhanger that somebody who works with the Flash hacked up his entire office staff. So
yikes!
That's another murder they got to solve. Going into the Robert Venditti run on the Flash, will be taken over here in a couple of months. And then we had Green Lantern 29. Speaking of Robert Venditti, I'm really liking what he's doing. He's kind of reestablishing the universe. What we learned in the Green Lantern, Red Lantern flip book is that the Red Lanterns now control Space Sector 2814. For the first time ever, the Green Lanterns do not have control of it. But because Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan are on decent terms, he lets them have one Green Lantern stationed on Earth to protect it. And so Hal's got to go out on another mission because of this war that he's inadvertently started and try to fix that. So he leaves Simon Baz in charge of Earth and his family. So it looks like we might get a little Simon Baz action. And also we saw Saint Walker dealing with not having the blue ring and not being depressed because, he used to have the blue light and it was all about hope, and now he doesn't have any hope, and it's kind of fucking him up. So, good issue. And Aquaman number 28 by Jeff Parker, really showing what he can do here in this issue.
It's a great cover.
Great cover, yeah. Aquaman and a shark, you can't go wrong there. He's, got the trident ready and about to take that shark down. Most of this issue... This has tying plot threads to other Atlantean affairs that have been going on. But the majority of the issue takes place on the land. And where does it take place? Aquaman's high school reunion.
Nice.
And
Mirror go with him?
Yes.
That's the way you do it.
It's fucking fantastic. As you can see, he brings her into the reunion and she's just looking fine and ripped to shreds and in this super tight dress, and everybody's like oohing and ahhing and whispering and talking about him. And he finally, he gets over, everybody starts having a few drinks, they get over their nervousness with him and start recalling old high school memories and shit, and he's having a good time. And Mira's over grilling all of his ex-girlfriends, trying to find out his secrets and shit. it's pretty fucking top-notch. I definitely am excited for more of Jeff Parker on Aquaman after that, because it's kind of something different than Jeff Johns did, but still keeps it with the same spirit, and it's been good.
Very nice.
And then my last DC book was a controversial title this week, Forever Evil number 6. Nightwing's Last Stand, or as the solicits, they said the final fate of Dick Grayson revealed, and well,
not quite.
It wasn't, actually, but what we did find out there was that he had a bomb tied to him. It was tied to firestorms, nuclear detonation or what the fuck ever. And essentially, the crime syndicate had set it up to where that the bomb could only be disarmed if they stopped his heart. So, Luthor, of course, smothers him and stops his heart to stop the bomb from detonating, and Batman beats the shit out of Luthor, and Luthor says, as he's getting his ass kicked, but wait, there's still time.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the book. And it also has some crazy shit. Like, you really get to see this new makeshift team of Lex Luthor's Injustice League and Batman and Catwoman kick some major ass on the crime syndicate. The 2 more crime syndicate members go down in this issue, so they're fighting their way up the ladder. And it's pretty fantastic.
Would you say it would be accurate if you were going to write a review of this, that your top line would be Batman kicks Luthor's ass for choking his dick? That would work. I'm just saying.
Oh, one other big thing.
The network is called Potty Humor, people.
That's right. That's right. We also got the reveal of the mysterious man with the bag on his head who's kind of just been there and had no explanation
Old
the entire
Baghead,
series. Yeah. They just trotted him out and they're like, hey, we got this guy over here.
Yeah.
The crime syndicate has had someone kidnapped, and it keeps showing him throughout the series. He's got a bag on his head, and they're like, oh, don't let him out or whatever. Well, they finally let him out, and it's Alexander Luthor from their planet. But with an interesting twist. He's apparently acquired some superpowers, and there are some that you might be familiar with. So check out Forever Evil. They've one more to go, and it's kind of going to be a make or break issue because it's been a cool event, and I've enjoyed it. But if they don't deliver on something, I kind of feel like it's going to be all for naught.
I mean, there's got to be like a final showdown with everybody, but pumped for that. I mean, I like the way another event so far. Like, if you just read the Justice League titles and this their first big event, like if you were just picking up big things, either picking up all the Justice League or if you just picked up Throne of Atlantis and then the Trinity War, then this. I do like their events, like, all do feel like, overall, like, even though they continue with each other, like, more contained than, like, a lot of the Marvel events.
Well, I mean, this whole event's probably taking place within like a 48-hour time span.
Yeah, and it does make sense too. Now that you know like the direction they're going, as they're probably gonna eventually make these all into animated movies. That's probably part of the idea and part of the overall concept of having Jeff Johns in Los Angeles and moving DC there, where you've got the other people in the other room, where he plans out a story and goes, okay, like this is gonna be a 2-hour movie. Like how do I make it like a mini series? How long do I need? Because all these things will do read. I think, at first it was like, when we read, like, say the first 6 issues of Justice League, we're like, this reads like a movie. And then later, looking back on it, it's like, oh, it's because that was the plan. Like, he's writing these arcs, as, like, all, like, little, like, 3-hour, 2.5-hour features. So it's all part of the plan. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean, if the first animated was any indication, I think that they're on the right track with that.
Yeah, so you go over to Marvel. We got some books, some biggies. The end of Wolverine, the X-Men, Jason Aaron. Sad that it's gone.
Damn it, man.
Thought it was a good ending, a good send off. I like the tribute, the cover, the Days of Futures Past cover here, because it kind of is. You get Old Man Wolverine in the future. You get to see him. His powers have severely deteriorated. I guess in this, which will never come to pass because continuity completely changes and he's never going to get that old. But in this future, he's still, I guess the healing thing is still probably a thing because he's actually become old. It takes him a minute to get his claws popped out. So, this is going with the idea that he's lost his healing factor, it feels like. And then you got Quentin Quire has become completely the Phoenix in the future. And, he's kind of a badass and he shows up, just to fuck with Wolverine one last time. As an old man, has some people break in, and basically it's a good story. It convinces Wolverine, that he never needs to shut the school down. That, like, there's always going to be a place for him to teach the kids. And you get the present day. It sets up, that some of the kids graduate, so they're going to go on to do different things. And I guess it's still going to be in the book. I mean, I decided not to pick up the new iteration of the series, but like Quentin Quire graduated, but he's definitely on the cover of the new book. So I guess he's still hanging around the school, but. I'll be interested. I mean, I'll eventually go back and read somehow. I'll be interested to see like what the characters do after the Aaron run. But I thought it was a really good cap of his, and I was like,
it is. And no matter what anybody else does in the future with the characters, it's like he got his ending for them.
Yeah, which there's already as the way they do now, which I really like. There's an omnibus coming out. It's 100, but if you order it from Cheap Graphic Novels, the week comes out, get it for $50. You can get the entire run. It was 42 issues. It's not going to have that many, so I'm guessing they're probably going to pull out the crossover issues that really don't make sense. Like, there were a couple of issues like Battle of the Atom. You're probably going to pull those out of this because without the rest of that story, they're just kind of like whatever. And maybe a little bit of...
Some Avengers versus X-Men.
Maybe some of that, even though a lot of that did still feel kind of contained. There'll be a few that were part of events that get pulled out, but you basically, you'll get his whole run for $50, and... So if you decide to go back and read it, that is the story. And I thought the last 2 issues kind of combined did a great job. The last issue, 41, was a great, like the things that made it great, like the quirkiness and the weirdness of the characters. And then this was a good send off for just Wolverine himself. So very happy with that. And then, so you got an X book?
Oh yeah.
We'll keep up with the X-Men books.
Well, I mean, I got two actually, if you count them. They're two peripheral X books.
Yeah,
One
I guess
being
so.
Guardians of the Galaxy number 12, but it is the trial of Jean Grey, part 4 of 6. And essentially, this issue had a really crazy deal where we saw Scott Summers meet Corsair again for the first time. So you have the whole a difficult moment for Corsair because he's having to re-explain why he abandoned his son to him again after this super painful thing that they've already had to deal with once in his life. And his mended
That's a real fucked up
fences
Groundhog Day.
with his dad. That is a real fucked up Groundhog Day. And then you also have Jean Grey being tried by the CR, and they have a psychic like probing her for information and stuff, and clearly she doesn't know what's going on or why they're even trying her, and of course they believe she's committed genocide. Then it's kind of fucked up situation. The Guardians are on their way with the original class and Kitty Pryde to come help. So it's a cool issue. And then also had Uncanny Avengers number 17 by Rick Remender. This was a crazy issue. Like, this was, I guess, the false finish to Ragnarok now, because
Yeah, I guess so.
this way it looked at the end of this issue, Captain America was murdered, the world was destroyed by the Celestial, and Thor barely escaped into Asgard as fucking Earth was destroyed. It was fucking wiped out. The end of the Marvel Universe occurred in this book.
Judging from the solicits for next week, it's got to be a false finish because there are more books.
Yeah, so Marvel continues.
Maybe this is how they go digital next week. While books aren't here, like, didn't you read Uncanny Avengers? It's over. We're relaunching all on the iPad.
We'll reboot the new 616.
Yes. This is I-616.
Oh, but most importantly, I had, as far as the X book goes, an actual X title. Uncanny X-Men number 18, which was my favorite Marvel book this week. In that, it was just a surprisingly, great one-off issue. It was a flashback issue about the conversation Kitty Pryde and Scott Summers had when she decided to join the Rogue X-Men team and leave Wolverine and crew. She actually showed up to kill Cyclops. She was going to be a mole and come in and fucking kill him, and he stopped her. They have this deep, tear-filled conversation about Charles Xavier, and at the end they're both crying and hugging, and he's welcoming her to the team. It was a pretty poignant issue.
Nice. That's good. Let's see, jump over real quick. Couple books. I didn't really, I guess it's over a 2 week span. I guess it's Hawkeye. Hawkeye was from 2 weeks ago. But it's really good Marvel books that I really liked. Good old Hawkeye was really good again. It was good to see it was back about Clint. I see him back in the Hawkeye book.
Yeah. This is another false finish issue.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this one's crazy. It's a great issue. They really kicked up his war with the Russian bros. Was really kicked up a notch. He kind of gets one over on him, and it's all, that's really good. It's not the title. It says Fun and Games. That's what I was about to say. Because it kind of is all fun and games until you and your brother both get shot in the head. And that's what happens. It looks like your normal issue where some hijinks or they're able to skirt the
tracksuit Draculas.
The tracksuit Draculas. And then the issue ends, they're both laying on the ground after being shot in the head. And that's fucked up. So, pumped up to see what happens. This is Hawkeye 15. Hawkeye 16 came out and was about Kate. It already came out because of weird publishing. So, pumped up for Hawkeye 17 to see what the hell's up with the Barton brothers because they both got fucked up royally at the end of that book.
Yeah, that's nuts. Well, that's really cool, though, that the next issue is still going to be the follow-up to that.
It should be. Yeah, I haven't seen the solicits. It should be, though. Go over to She-Hulk number 2. Liked it again. good old Charlie Soule. I think it's a winner. It's definitely going to be kept. Liked it. This issue is basically its continuation. She's figuring out what she's going to do now that she's got her own law office, how she's going to pay the bills, how she's going to get some clients. She goes out and gets an assistant and goes out and blows off some steam by getting drunk and beating some people up, and it's pretty good. So,
quite all right.
A great addition to the pull list. And then over to I guess highly anticipated for a lot of people. I didn't decide to add it till a week ago, just the last second. I was like, damn it, I guess I got to read it. But totally worth it, man. Moon Knight was outstanding. It was as good as the number one issue is going to be. Totally got you pulled in. I know nothing about Moon Knight because, like I said, I've only been reading comics for a couple years, and no one's been like, hey, read this Moon Knight collection.
Moon Knight's a weird character. I mean, like a lot of great writers have tried to take on Moon Knight, and
I started reading just his backstory after reading the issue, and I didn't see, I guess there was a popular run on him at some point in the 90s, and they just brought him back a couple times, and it is usually, like, respected writers, and people like it, but I mean, I guess it's obviously something that doesn't hold up in sales, or there would just be Moon Knight books all the time, but Warren Ellis back in Marvel, it's a good combination with Declan Shalvey, he does the art. They do a great thing. They draw Moon Knight. I don't know if he's been like this in the past books, but he's completely white, even like they make his skin tone a little bit wider. So it looks awesome on these pages where everything else is normal. You get him, he just stands out, completely uncolored and stuff. But like I said, I knew nothing about the character other than kind of what he looked like. And you get like this first story, you get a really good backstory on, why he is who he is and like what his kind of his intentions are and everything. So it was great. It was a great introduction. Pumped up for the story. It's another fucking book that I'm gonna have to keep getting. But I say that with joy because it was awesome. But it was really great. So can't recommend it enough.
Outstanding. I had Captain America number 18, and we really get the quick and dirty on Dr. Mind Bubble here in the Iron Nail Part 2. We find out where his crazy mind control powers come from. He was a super soldier experiment intended to try and neutralize the actual super soldier. He was part of the Weapon Minus program.
Nice.
Okay? And his powers were created by injecting him with a combination of the super soldier serum and LSD.
Hey.
And so I'm just looking at this beautiful issue, and I mean the action is just fantastic, and it's got the great Batman 66 like on screen describing of action, and I look and see who the artist is. Lo and behold, Nick Klein from the Jason Latour Winter Soldier run that I love so much is
Nice.
filling in on this arc here. So loved it. Captain America is still one of my favorite books. Also had another Deadpool issue 24, and the whole crazy saga with Deadpool, Agent Preston, rogue S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and trying to find the right body for Agent Preston still continues in another great issue.
Great. Well, on to our last category, some image books, a couple of those. Black Science, number 4. It was good again. I know you just finished that Fear Agent up. Man Remender is a talented dude because he writes superheroes really badass and dark, gritty stuff, and he also does science fiction really badass,
Yeah.
which adds in the dark, gritty stuff. Not much. If you haven't been reading it, most of the stuff isn't going to make sense to you, but I mean, the first few issues is a combination of like backstory and what's going on with them.
Black Science is unique. It's like
Crew of people now.
I don't even know what to compare it to, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's a space book. It's definitely science fiction, but then it's also, it's also completely Remender, like in the way that people talk and all the things that happen. It's really great. Another book that's hard to compare to things is Revival.
Except for I saw some bullshit.
Oh, Resurrection?
Yeah. I think
Well,
we've talked about this on the show before, but I actually saw the promo for it, and it really kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, it does seem like they kind of stole the idea. I hope it sucks and nobody likes it. I know I hate to say that because who knows if they actually stole the idea or if the people that are actually writing it had any idea that this existed. But if it seems very close, it seems a little too close to home to me.
It seems just like one of those
Especially,
things.
Is it on ABC?
ABC or NBC, a big network.
We see because ABC's also famous for if they can't get comics, they tried really hard to get the license for Fables, couldn't work out a deal, so they just figured out, all the characters are obviously public domain, so we'll just do Once Upon a Time, which they turned their Fable script into that, so they're not above,
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Tinkering with a popular comic and then making it your own.
The thing that sucks about large companies is they can do that because the Joe public doesn't know about this thing, and so if they go and they just steal enough of it to make it a hit, then they've raped the original creator.
You steal like the concept and then just do it your own way. Then it's hard to go after anybody because you can just go. It's just a different take on zombies. People come back alive. There's lots of zombie shows. They go, yeah, sure, and that's it. But we'll see if these motherfuckers on Resurrection start having like ghostly spirits. You find out of themselves roaming out in the woods, then Tim Seeley's going to sue somebody's ass. Then there'll be that. But another awesome issue, man. I have no idea how long this book's going to go. It's ongoing, but
the book is so fucking good. Let me ask you, because I just read that first deluxe hardcover. Does that pick up right where that left off?
No, man, we're a little bit down the line. This is 18, so we're almost a trade past. The deluxe hardcover is either 1 through 11 or 12.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've had another 6 issues.
It just seemed like some of that stuff at the end was pretty recent.
Yeah, that's the thing. Not a ton happened. I would think that, everything that's happened through these 18 issues, which that's over the course of almost, 20 months now since it started coming out, really probably only, the present time stuff really only takes place over the course of a few weeks, I think, at most. So, it is, the story is, not that big a time. There's obviously lots of flashbacks and stuff, but, we're getting, a point with a lot of stuff where Dana Cypress's kid is now seemingly being stalked by some of these spirit things, the revival spirit things. I don't know what the fuck they're calling them in the book, if anything. Just white ghost guys. I guess not that many people. Only a few independent people know about them. It's not like they know people are coming back to life, but these little alien body spirit things, they're not all over the news or anything. There's just a few people that know about them, but there's a lot of crazy shit. You get to see the reaction of the guy who worked at the morgue, who burnt the guy alive, and he got revived. He's just bowling, and it's completely zonked out, and it's just I can't go back to that job. I can't chance burning a body and then it waking up. Because that was a crazy thing in the last issues where the guy wakes up after he's died. He's been been revived and wakes up, but his been burnt, burnt at the morgue, so his skin's on fire and he's going crazy. So it was good. But yeah, in this one we get some stuff. We get with a kid, which is really the main storyline that's going on. With Dana Cypress and her kid, you really get to figure out. You really start feeling a little bit afraid for him because she doesn't believe, that the ghosts are real. She hasn't seen anything. She basically tells him to, stop acting like a maniac. And then her sister is feeling some effects. She started having these weird things where she wakes up and she's bleeding out of her eyes and through all of her openings and having a shower. So it looks like after a certain amount of time that the bodies may actually start corrupting more. You're finding that out, but it's really great. It is, at first when it came out, and and of course it was like this too, and saw, I was like, oh, it's Image's other zombie book, but it's couldn't be further from what The Walking Dead is.
It's such a unique and fantastic story, and I really think that Seeley's gonna just blow us away with whatever the big mystery is behind it. Because you don't even it's the elephant in the room in the book, but you don't even worry about it while you're reading the book
because the characters are so interesting, and you're worried about what's going to happen to them. There's so many likable characters that you're just
But clearly, there's this ongoing mystery of what caused this? What are these people? What are these spirit things?
Who knows more than they're talking about? Does the government already know because they're kind of quarantining off the town and there's a lot of different threads involved that you only know a little bit about. He gives you just enough to be interested, and then you'll come back to it a few issues later and get a little bit more and a little bit more. So, I mean, it does. I mean, we're 18 issues in, but it really feels like it could go a really long time. Like he has a real long-term plan, but it's great. Seeley's great. I'm really happy to read. I can't wait to read some of Seeley's, Batman stuff when that comes out. He's going to be on that Eternal, so that'll be great. And it really makes me want to go back and read Hack Slash. I've never read it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But I guess
check it out.
I think they've put it out as like 3 collected, paperback collected. I get scared buying big paperback books though because they get fucked up a lot of the times. But I may have to go because that's the only way. They only put the first 6 issues out in the hardcover, so I may have to break my rule. Because it doesn't look like they're coming out, so if I want to read it, I got to do. But there's 3 big collectors of that, so I am pumped to read those.
Awesome. Then
I guess all we have left the other zombie book at Image. You may have heard of it.
You might have.
Might be the reason you're reading comics.
It could possibly be.
I mean, the last couple years.
Imagine it probably is for a lot of people. It's certainly the thing.
It's what got me interested. I mean, that's it. Was my roommate, Dave. Our audience might know if our friends listen to this, but yeah, he had a Walking Dead omnibus that he borrowed laying in the bathroom, and I sat down to take a shit one day because I was always like, I just remember comics as a kid and was just like, I don't really care about those anymore because what I read as a kid was kind of for kids back then. I read a bunch of Spider-Man and Fantastic Four from 1990. Those were aimed at that age of me. And I was just like, I don't care. And then I read that first, picked up that Walking Dead, started reading it, and was like, fuck. So, probably one of many that Walking Dead got into the game.
And it continues. It continues. This issue is all about the tension building, because something terrible is about to happen, as we know.
Yeah.
And what are we here? 8 of 12 in all-out war. So we're getting into the final quadrant.
It's time for Jedi. This is in last issue. The last couple of issues really did feel like Empire Strikes Back. If this is 12 issues and it's almost like a trilogy of stories, the bad guys were fucking winning big time. And this is the calm before the storm, which is going to be the final few issues, the final battle to end this thing.
Yeah, essentially it's Rick and crew on the hilltop discussing what their next move is and kind of recovering from their losses and trying to figure out what they got to do to take out Negan. And meantime, Negan's plotting, of course. And of course, it just leaves you with that.
As all Walking Dead story do, you take, spoilers if you haven't been reading, but we talk about it enough. I think, you start taking a fucking census of who's alive. And just hope that they all make it through. You look and go, we still got Rick and Carl, we got Maggie, we got Michonne. That's our original crew of people that are still alive. So, are we going to have them? Are they going to make it through this? And some of the other characters we've picked. At this point, the other characters you've picked up along the way are just like, man, I hope they don't die. But if I could just keep that core 4, and Andrea, your core 5. Of main characters that have been around for a while. It's you hope none of them bite the dust, but you're really afraid they will.
Yeah. And, of course...
It's you look, Rosita's still alive, you won't be shocked at all if she dies. You won't be shocked if basically anyone but those 5 die, and they won't even shock you, but in Walking Dead, you really can only care about a finite number of characters, because if you have a big group of these are my 10 favorite characters, you're going to get your heart broken.
Yeah, and they've introduced a couple of really cool new characters on the hilltop, and with this,
is Jesus gonna make it?
Yeah, is he gonna awesome. Big revelation about him in this issue? By the way,
he likes the cops.
He loves it. Apparently,
yeah.
Hey, he's been a hell of a soldier for Rick, and as this revealed that he's with a dude.
Yeah,
it's just a unique. They didn't make a big deal about it, but it's just oh hey, by the way, Jesus is gay. Oh cool.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sure that was Robert Kirkman trying to fucking poke the fundamentalists.
He'd be hey, guess what? This is gay Jesus.
They'd be so mad.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, you wonder if he's going to survive.
Or Ezekiel. I also wonder if Shiva the tiger may not be dead.
That's true.
We never saw a body.
No, we just know she got lost in the battle.
The zombies were overtaking her. But we've never seen one animal turn.
No. That's true. That really takes that away. Like that would be weird if she came back as like a zombie tiger and started eating. Like what if she ate Negan as a zombie? I mean that would be fucked up. But then that opens up the can of worms of like if animals can turn. Like what's the deal?
I don't
And then you
even
find
know
out
that.
Ezekiel fucked Shiva, and then you're like, that's how she got it. She got the seed. It's reverse AIDS. Ezekiel's been giving the zombie virus to all the animals that fuck. It's like now. The fact that you look just like what's that guy? The funk master.
George P. Funk.
Yeah, you look just like George Clinton. Is the weirdest thing about you. The weirdest thing about you is that you're fucking your tiger.
But I think it would be cool to see, if Shiva was still out there to come in for a big save.
That would be great if Shiva came in and took Negan down. I also wonder about Negan though, man, because the governor got killed and he's gone, and you think that obviously knew Negan. What if something fucked up happens and Negan just gets away? And then, the governor, he kind of did it with the governor where he loomed. He didn't loom that long looking back on it. It felt like he was gone a really long time, but it was just a few issues, and you knew he was coming back. If Negan just got away clean, and he just fucking wasn't in the book for like 40 issues, that would be something. I also think, what if something just outrageous happened, where within the fight, they start driving him back, and he stumbles upon like a fucking one-man airplane or something, just flies the fuck away, and then Negan's just gone, and you're just like, well,
he's out there somewhere.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome if something fucked up where he found a speedboat and was just like zoom, and it's like, well, he's gone, but he may come back.
Yeah, the obvious ending is that Negan gets killed in some brutal
Rick
battle.
Or Carl or somebody fucking just kills him. Yeah, gets him.
And maybe takes out a major character on the way, but who knows with The Walking Dead, because that book is the one book that will tear your guts out the second you let your guard down.
That's true.
So you gotta be careful. But that's all we got for this week, folks.
Yeah, it's a great week. I got a lot of good stuff. Got a good stuff coming next week. I got Batman, the next issue of 0 Year, and I got Superman, Wonder Woman. Got a bunch of other books too, but I mean, I feel like that's enough. Oh, I think Daredevil relaunch comes next week. The new #1 of Daredevil. As I like to call it, Daredevil number 37.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've looked. I scouted this right before we come on the air.
Deadpool's out next week.
Yes, Deadpool's definitely out. I think
I
the wedding issue next week.
Yeah, I think I have 6 I have to buy. There's Batman, for sure. There's Superman, Wonder Woman. There's Nightwing. So it's those 3. And then there's, Daredevil, Deadpool, and something else.
I think that Winter Soldier, The Bitter March.
Number 2, that's out this week.
Is out. It was a light week for me. I know. I may not even have any DC.
All new X-Men's coming out this week as well.
Oh, there you go. Maybe The Last Animal Man.
I think you get maybe a JLA.
There you go. That's what it is.
Out. Yeah. So, but I got Batman and Superman, and Wonder Woman. So that's enough for us to do another show.
Damn straight.
So,
and so we'll see you, barring anyone else getting the fucking Ebola fucking monkey stomach flu.
Yes.
Then we'll be right back here.
Yeah, and until Marvel decides to yank them away and send them off into the ether, we're going to keep getting our books.